So let's start with prayers. You can repeat after me. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. So I want all of you to do a rapid fire revision of whatever you discussed and are learning over the past 1, 2, 3 sessions. You can quickly unmute yourself and say one or two sentences which most impacted you over the past 1 or 2 classes. Anyone? You can use the chat if you feel more comfortable with that. But I think I wanted to be rapid fire, so if you can just unmute yourself and yeah, Jyoti Krishna Kumar raised hand. Yes,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
When the principles of Dharma declines, Krishna takes avatars in different forms to re-establish Dharma.
Thank you. Yes. Then Saket says lust destroys our intelligence. Yes, that was also covered in the second chapter. Okay. Yes. I think at the end of third chapter also it was covered. Yes. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji and Saket Prabhu. Anyone else? Yeah, Jyoti Mataji wants to share again.
Oh no, that is
And
actually
okay.
the different incarnations are appearing in different times for a particular mission.
Hmm.
That is, Lord Buddha appeared to stop the animal sacrifice and establish the principles of non-violence.
Okay. Yes. And today we will actually specifically discuss the fundamental theme of all those missions. There is one underlying cause why Lord takes the incarnation, and that we will actually understand today. This is common to all the incarnations. Yes. So anybody else who wants to share? Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for sharing 2 points. But I would love to see others also participate so that, yeah, just like when we hear the class, that is like eating. And then we think about it, that is like digestion. If you eat and you don't digest, then you only get stomach pain. You don't get nourishment. And the indication that digestion has happened is there will be a burp. So that burp is like you sharing the point. It should come when we are discussing the uh, topic. You should be able to yeah, this we had discussed like that. Anyone else wants to add anything? If not, then we'll just proceed to the verse.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prasad Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Means karma or bhakti, anything can be chosen to reach and serve the Lord.
Yes, there are multiple yoga paths. That is true. And all yoga paths are valid. But there is a hierarchy between the paths, and there is a difference in the speed as well as the level of realization one can achieve by different yoga paths. That we will cover in due course. Krishna himself tells actually in the Gita, he himself covers and says, he has one clear recommendation. If you ask Krishna, he explains all the yoga paths, but then you ask him what should be done, he will tell only one yoga path repeatedly actually. So we will discuss that. Yes,
In
Ravi.
second chapter, it like covered karma, and then third, it like covered bhakti, like some part of.
Yes,
So
yes,
anything can
true.
be chosen to.
Yeah.
It's
So
based
in
on
the
the
first
like
six
personality of
chapters,
the each person have different someone may choose bhakti, someone may choose karma to serve the god. But I
yeah,
understand that.
yeah, we'll dig into it a little more. So what you're saying is in one sense true. In the first six chapters, there is more of a discussion of the karma aspect. Within that karma also, the same thing can look like karma to one person and it can be bhakti to another. There is a very subtle difference. It is about the internal mood of the person. And Krishna doesn't necessarily talk about karma per se. He talks about something called Bhagavad Arpita Nishkam Karma Yoga, technical thing. But he talks about that. And if you go to the next six chapters, that is from chapter 7 to chapter 12, there you will see Krishna giving a very clear recommendation on one of the paths. And the most accommodative path is also expressed. There is like, yeah, sometimes you could say that there are people who are unable to perform one of the yoga paths, but one of the paths is actually extremely inclusive and everyone can actually practice it. So there, all of these verses will come up. Yes, but thank you. This is good that you're thinking about it. That's very, very wonderful. Yes, Ravi Verma Prabhu, quickly if one point. Yeah.
Yes, Hare Krishna Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Every living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna, and the natural dharma, sweetness is the natural propensity of sugar. Like that, the natural the dharma of living entity is to love and serve Krishna.
Okay, wonderful. This is the fundamental theme of Bhagavatam, actually, one of the very initial verses. Yes, so let us now quickly come to today's verse. Okay. So in today's verse, we are actually going to understand the nature of Krishna's birth itself. So we'll read two verses. I'll share my screen. I hope you will be able to see it clearly. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes, so the verse for today is Bhagavad Gita 4.6. So there are two verses, and you covered last time 4.7 and 8, and 4.6 and 4.9 are related. So we'll cover those two verses today. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanamishwaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. So in this verse, Krishna is telling, translation, although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates. And although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So, what is Krishna telling? That Ajopi san avyayatma, I am unborn, and avyayatma, I don't change. And I am not a regular person, I am Ishvara. But still, I appear, sambhavami, again and again, Atmamaya, by my own will. Right? So that is what Krishna is telling. Now let us just understand from the purport why this verse needs to be understood carefully. So I'll read the purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. So, for context, why is Prabhupada saying that he remembers his past births? Is just a few verses ago, Krishna spoke about the parampara. If you remember, this was covered a few days back, wherein in the verse, Krishna tells that, my dear Arjun, this knowledge was already instructed by me to Vivaswan. who is the sun god. And you were also present at that time, but you forgot, but I did not forget. Krishna told like that to Arjun. And then Arjun asks, "Hey, Krishna, you are standing in front of me. We are like cousin brothers, and you are telling that of many thousands of years ago you told how it is possible." So that's what here now Krishna is answering, that he is his the reason why he remembers activities from 5,000 years ago. So he remembers everything of his many past births also, what one may call a birth. A common man, though, we don't remember what we had for. If I asked you what you had for breakfast on October 1st, nobody will remember, right? But Krishna remembers what he did 5,000 years ago. So if someone is asked what he did exactly at some time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. I mean, for you, it might be easy because Gita class every day, same time. And yet, men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature as well as Swarupa or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. This is very important. This is something that we should understand very clearly. Let's read on. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his own original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. So, from this entire section, it is important to understand that there is a very big difference between the body of Krishna and our body. Our body is a cage, it is a material covering on a spiritual particle. So, we, the Jivatma, the soul, are a small spiritual spark. This spark is very, very powerful. And therefore, since it is so powerful, although there is this big material carcass, this covering of, organs and sweats, whatever, blood, flesh, and bones and hair, you have this covering. It's a cage, it's like a prison on top of this spiritual particle. But still, this particle is so amazing that when a person is alive, you feel like, oh, this person is, interesting. I want to meet him. I want to speak with him. But as soon as a person dies, you want to run away from that place, right? However, the point I'm trying to make is that the body is material, whereas the soul is spiritual. In Krishna's case, there is no such difference. Krishna is 100% spiritual. There is no material covering. The body itself is spiritual. Now imagine the small particle is there inside the body, which makes the body look attractive, right? Therefore, people have competition like Miss India, Mr. India, whatever, Miss Universe, all these weird things. And they are trying to find people who are beautiful. The source of that beauty is that tiny particle inside. Imagine if that particle becomes like the full thing, the full person only is spirit. Imagine how attractive he will be. So, Krishna's body is like that. God's body in any avatar, when he comes, it is purely spiritual. There is no material covering. And therefore, there is no deterioration. Like you had read in the early part of the second chapter, that the soul cannot be cut, the soul cannot grow old, the soul cannot die, the soul cannot be born, the soul cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be made wet by water. All of these things we had discussed in the Gita. And all of these things are applicable as it is to Krishna. Krishna is never born. Krishna cannot be cut. Krishna cannot be, his body is spiritual. It's a different substance. And he's extremely attractive. Okay, so let's read on. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is the Lord of the universe, it still appears like he has taken birth. like an ordinary living entity. But is he an ordinary living entity? Absolutely not. Although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. Till youth, Krishna grows. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home. Or, in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculation. Still, he looks just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. Have you seen any painting of Krishna with white beard and all? At the time of Kurukshetra, he was 125 years old, by the way. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us. Although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Right? So, this is in general an important principle to understand about Krishna's appearance, that it is not like ours. His body is completely spirit. Okay. Now, um, one more analogy Prabhupada talks about. Yeah, let's read this. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising and moving. Sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun has set. And when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position. But owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful knowledge by his internal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. Just like when the sun is there, we never say the sun was created in the morning. The sun actually never moved only. The sun was in its fixed place, but we were moving. And so it seemed like now the sun is born in the morning and it is dying at night. It is not like that. Similarly, Krishna appears when the time is right. He is always the same eternal, supreme, absolute truth. But at a particular time, he appears. Right? And yeah, so that is one thing. And lastly, this point can be read. Yeah, so this part. Um, his appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy. Like one may ask, why does he appear? Right? If the sun is there and he doesn't have any karma. For us, why do we appear in this world? We never choose to appear. We have karma. And because of certain karma, we are forced to accept a certain type of body with certain parents and certain skills and certain uh, disabilities. Certain facial structure. Some of us are pretty, some of us are not, some of us are intelligent, some of us are not. Different things, right? All of this happens by our karma and we are forced to go. But Krishna has no karma. Then why does he appear in this material world? Why does he appear in this jail? So his appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy, bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate upon the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which an impersonalist wrongly thinks the Lord's form to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy. Just like if there is a jail, okay, in a jail, there are many people in a jail uniform. They'll be wearing that, the striped shirt or whatever. In Indian jail, I guess that's the uniform. So they wear that and then they are, spending time in the jail, and say the president enters. Okay. The president enters. He is dressed in opulent clothes and all. He is a little different from the prisoners. Why is he entering the jail? It is not that he has done some crime. The people in prison have done some crime, so they are forced to be in the jail. But the president may enter the jail to meet the prisoners and encourage them. Arey, why are you, committing crimes? You look outside, it is so nice. Look at me, how nicely I'm dressed, how much I'm enjoying. Why don't you come out? We can be happy in the actual world. Why are you committing crimes like this? In that way, right? So When Krishna appears in the material world, it is out of his causeless mercy to call all of us back outside of this material prison house, back to his home, which we say back home, back to Godhead. Right? That is the reason for Krishna's appearance. And therefore, there is this verse. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvataha chakva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna. Understood? So Krishna is telling that if one is able to understand what is actually his nature of his appearance, like all of you have been understanding for the last 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, all of you have been understanding what is the nature of Krishna's appearance. Krishna's body is not material and he appears only for the sake of showing causeless mercy. Similarly, his activities, right? Like when he is getting bound by Mother Yashoda, this is the Damodar Kartik month, right? This is the month where Krishna, as a baby, was running out of fear from Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda somehow caught him. She caught the supreme absolute truth, who is who has all powers in the world, and he is the source of speed of cheetah. He is the source of the speed of light for for that matter, right? And Mother Yashoda caught him, and then she managed to tie him. He who fits the entire universe in his belly, Mother Yashoda tied him. So his activities are very transcendental. They're not easy to understand. How is it that God, who has all these powers, is becoming tied up and is crying because his mother is chasing him? How does he even have his mother? First of all, he's unborn, but he has a mother. Huh? He is bigger than the biggest, but he is getting tied by some cloth. He's feared by fear personified, but he is crying when Mother Yashoda says. So his activities are very sweet and beautiful and mysterious. They take some devotion to understand. As I said earlier at the start, that Krishna is not understood by an intelligent person. Krishna is only understood by his lover. Only his lovers get access to understand what Krishna really is. So, if one is able to understand his appearance and activities, then that person goes back to the spiritual world. Let us just read a little bit here. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse, which is what we just read. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord, is only partial, and there is a risk of returning to the material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending his body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. Right? Another point I would just like to make also, there is a very beautiful verse which comes in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Parikshit Maharaj explains the glories of Krishna's pastimes. He says that these pastimes are most wonderful because they are like a very sweet medicine. All of us have a disease. We have a disease of bhogavritti. As Ravi Verma Prabhu was saying, that actually we are all part and parcel of Krishna, and we only are looking for love. We are looking to love and to be loved. But we are not finding that in the material world, and that is why we are distracting ourselves with enjoyment. We have a disease of material enjoyment. We try to seek happiness by making ourselves happy. We don't try to seek happiness by making Krishna happy. This is a diseased condition. And hearing Krishna's activities and his loving devotion, loving devotional exchanges with his devotees, this acts as a medicine which removes this disease of wanting to become happy by our own enjoyment. And we slowly, our bhoga vritti gets transformed into seva vritti. even when we hear about the devotees of the Lord, like you might have been hearing about Hanuman, when you read the Art of Concentration, you would have read about the qualities of Hanuman. And that itself can awaken Sevavriti in us, right? So this material conditioning gets purified by hearing the pastimes of Krishna. And another thing is, this sweet medicine is very sweet. Just by hearing it, you feel very happy also, right? So this is actually one of the reasons of Krishna's appearance. We say, no, Krishna appears, the incarnations appear. The fundamental reason is to give people an opportunity to talk about his activities, which are the medicine that help the conditioned soul get cured. The fundamental purpose of every incarnation is to take us outside of the material world. Yes, there is a purpose of establishing dharma in this world, but fundamentally, this world itself is a place of misery. This will be covered, I think, in the one of the future verses. Right? Krishna describes that the material world itself is not a place to live in for eternity, at least. Right? Our eternal home is with Krishna in the spiritual world, and Krishna performs his very attractive pastimes to steal our heart away from this. We are trying to find happiness where there is no happiness. Like inside a jail, we are fighting over who gets the bigger piece of bread. It makes no sense. We are inside a jail ultimately. Why are we trying to be happy here? To get out of the jail, you can get how much ever bread you want, right? So Krishna, out of his compassion, performs these activities so that by meditating on them, by serving in the right spirit, by chanting his names, the loving devotional exchanges of these pastimes, they start to make sense to us. And then we get attracted to the spiritual world, and the attraction to material world is gone. So that is why Krishna says that one who understands the nature of his birth and activities, he, once he quits the world, will never come back. Actually, if we really hear the pastimes of Krishna in a purified state, more and more we start hankering. We start feeling, I want to observe these pastimes. I want to serve the Lord by assisting the devotees in these pastimes. These kind of desires start manifesting in our heart. And that is the end of our sojourn in the material world. So that is the discussion for today. Does anyone have any questions or comments or thoughts or anything? If not, we can end here. Thank you, Leela Krishna Prabhu. Yes. Okay. Let's end here. Uh, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.